Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Delusional Giudice, smacked with truth, not a housewife. Delusional REONG daughter, Giudice has been smacked with the truth as fans alert her that she's not a housewife. The 23-year-old has popped up in several episodes of the hit Bravo reality series. Yet, she has not left the best impression on viewers in the last few seasons. So what else are fans saying about Teresa Giudice's mini-me? Keep reading for more details. Giudice was an adorable and sweet little girl when REONG first began. She even put her mother, Teresa Giudice, in her place several times, which viewers appreciated. Then, Teresa met and fell in love with Luis Ruiz, and everything changed. Gia developed a very sharp tongue and did not think before she spoke. She was unkind to her uncle and aunt, Joe and Melissa Gorga, plus she talked poorly about her mother's co-stars. It appeared she was always on her mother's side, no matter what she said or did, which was hard for viewers. They did not understand why Gia had to be around all of the time, acting like she was a housewife when she very clearly was not. Plus, Gia always defended her mother's marriage to Luis, praising her stepfather, even if he was indefensible. Recently, Gia was on Teresa's Turning the Tables podcast. According to Monsters and Critics, she chatted about how some think she is too into her mother's life and problems. I'm very much an adult, but the people who also say that about me are just they're very insecure and jealous. They're jealous because they don't have somebody like me on their side. They're probably jealous of our relationship and how I have your back. She also noted that if the cast has issues with her jumping to Teresa's defense, she has the solution. They can invite their children to the series to do the same for their parents. Apparently, viewers did not care for what Giudice had to say because they went off in the comments. Absolutely nobody is jealous or insecure. She really shouldn't be on the show. She's not a housewife, and she's the only child who has inserted herself or brought in the delusions. This is absolutely Teresa's child. Gia is as delusional as her toxic mother. No one on the show is jealous of Teresa having Gia have her back. The cast and the viewers just don't like Gia or want her involved in the drama. At this point, all of this does not really matter when the future of REONG is up in the air. Season 14 did not have a traditional reunion because of the way the cast struggled to interact. So Bravo and Andy Cohen knew they had some big decisions to make for Season 15, and that may or may not include Teresa and Giudice. When the last season ended, Teresa's husband, Luis Ruiz, made a very cruel comment regarding Margaret Joseph's son. As soon as Teresa got a chance to see it on film, she never said he was wrong. Rather, she defended him while viewers were up in arms. Giudice had always been the apple of her mother's eye. Raised in the glare of reality TV cameras, she grew up on screen, with her every move scrutinized by millions of fans. But Gia was no longer the wide-eyed girl watching her family's drama unfold from the sidelines. Now, she was a young woman in her early 20s, freshly graduated from college, eager to make her mark in the world. However, what Gia wanted most was something that even the Giudice name couldn't guarantee her, a spot as a full-fledged cast member on The Real Housewives of New Jersey. It had been brewing for a while, this ambition. Gia watched the ladies on REONG carry themselves with confidence, walking a fine line between drama and glamour. Her mother, Teresa Giudice, was the queen bee, and Gia was sure that her time was coming. After all, she had been part of this world since she was a child. She knew the ins and outs of the show's drama, the alliances, and the rivalries. In Gia's mind, she was next in line to become a true Jersey housewife. Gia's confidence, however, was quickly becoming a source of amusement and concern for those around her. The women who had been in this game for years, Melissa Gorga, Dolores Catania, and even Jennifer Aydin, had a front-row seat to Gia's growing delusions of grandeur. Sure, they had watched her grow up, But being a kid in the background was a far cry from the brutal battlefield of Housewives drama. Still, Gia was determined. She started dressing the part, shopping for extravagant outfits that screamed housewife chic, flaunting designer labels, and making her presence known at every party, event, and gathering. Gia even upped her social media game, posting glamorous selfies, cryptic quotes about betrayal, and plenty of #RHOMG-inspired hashtags. But the reality was, she wasn't a housewife. She was just Gia, the daughter of Teresa, and that distinction carried weight, but not quite enough to get her where she wanted. One evening, after yet another explosive party thrown by Jennifer Aydin, the rumors started flying. Gia had been seen whispering in corners with a producer, and some of the women caught wind that she was angling for her own storyline. Teresa, of course, was all for it. But the veteran housewives weren't so sure. Was Gia ready for the vicious backstabbing, the endless gossip, and the social media wars that came with being a real housewife? Did she even understand the pressure of carrying her own drama? It was Dolores who decided enough was enough. She had known Gia since she was a little girl and had watched Teresa fiercely protect her family through thick and thin. But Dolores also knew that this world, this toxic, swirling vortex of fame and infamy, wasn't something you just waltzed into, especially not if you were carrying a last name as loaded as Giudice. Gia had no idea what she was walking into, and Dolores, always the tough love type, decided it was time to bring her back to reality. Dolores invited Gia out for coffee at a little spot far away from the cameras, somewhere they could talk privately. Gia arrived, decked out in head-to-toe gutsy, oversized sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. She walked in like she owned the place, her smile bright and wide, but Dolores saw right through it. Gia was trying too hard. It was as if she was performing, not just for Dolores, but for the audience she imagined was watching her every move. "So, how are you doing, kid?" Dolores asked, cutting straight to the chase after some polite small talk. "I'm great. I've got a lot going on, with school behind me and all this stuff with the show," Gia replied, her voice laced with excitement. Dolores leaned forward, her tone steady but firm. "Gia, let me ask you something. Do you really think being a housewife is what you want? You think you're ready for that?" Gia blinked, caught off guard. "Of course, I've been around it my whole life. I know what it takes. Plus, it's in my blood, right?" Dolores sighed, shaking her head slightly. "No, it's not. Being around it and being in it are two very different things. You've seen your mom fight tooth and nail to stay on top. You've seen the betrayals, the tears, but you've never been the one in the middle of it." Gia bristled at the words, feeling a sting of frustration. "I'm ready, Dolores. I know how it works. I've watched you all for years." "You've watched? Sure, but watching isn't the same as living it. The second you step into that spotlight, you're not Teresa's daughter anymore. You're just Gia. And let me tell you, these women, they don't care if you're family. They'll tear you apart if it means getting ahead," Dolores said, her voice edged with seriousness. Gia sat back, crossing her arms defensively. "I'm not a little kid anymore. I can handle myself." "I know you're not a kid," Dolores said softly. "But you need to understand, this isn't a game. The cameras, the drama, the fame, it eats you alive if you're not ready for it. You think you know, but you don't. And I'm telling you this because I care about you. You've got a good life ahead of you, Gia. Don't let this world ruin it before it even begins." Gia's face fell, the weight of Dolores' words sinking in. She had been so wrapped up in the idea of following in her mother's footsteps, of becoming a star in her own right, that she hadn't really thought about what it would cost her. The truth, as much as she hated to admit it, was that she wasn't ready. Maybe she would never be. Dolores leaned back in her chair, watching the realization settle in Gia's eyes. "You've got time, kid. There's no rush. You don't need to be a housewife to make a name for yourself. You're already doing great things." Gia swallowed hard, her bravado deflating. I just wanted to make my mom proud, you know. Your mom's already proud of you, Gia, Dolores said, her voice warm now. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Least of all, these women. As they finished their coffee, Gia couldn't help but feel a twinge of disappointment, but also a sense of relief. Maybe she didn't need to chase the housewife dream after all. Maybe, just maybe, there was more to her than that. As Dolores got up to leave, she smiled and gave Gia a gentle pat on the shoulder. Remember, kid, being a housewife isn't all it's cracked up to be. Trust me. You've got a whole world ahead of you. Don't box yourself in before you've even started. Gia nodded, watching Dolores walk away, her mind swirling. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she needed to be something she wasn't.